Just in the last video, I claimed that information is spread everywhere in books, in the internet, and the knowledge gap is decreasing, the knowledge gap between amateurs and grandmasters. However, in the game we are going to take a look at Grandmaster Lubomir Fatcnik faced the international master Fatcnik-Bagamasbad from the Philippines. And Fatcnik is rated 2450 while the black player is rated 2016, so white has an advantage of over 400 elo points, so it's much higher rated. And white just was able to outplay black in the opening due to a blunder, but a very instructive blunder. You might have had similar positions and you might have missed it, because I can remember one occasion when I missed this idea. So it's very instructive. But it should be also mentioned that the black player was able to fight back and come back into the game and almost outplay his grandmaster opponent. So if you want to see how Fatcnik outplayed the opponent or the black player Fatcnik-Bagamasbad in the opening and how Bagamasbad just fought back, then make sure to stay until the end, because this is a very instructive game and might become some training material by coaches, because it has a lot of resources. So this being said, let's just go to the game. Grandmaster Lubomir Fatcnik opened the game with first d4, and black, played by Fatcnik-Bagamasbad, responds with knight to f6, knight f3, e6, and now c4. b6 played, so a Queen's Indian, and white goes for the main line with g3. Other options are moves like a3, the Petrosian variation for example, and now bishop b4 is never going to be working. Just to mention one idea, another would be just to transpose back into a Nimsu Indian with knight c3 and bishop b4, or transpose into a Nimsu Indian to be precise. So instead g3 was played, the absolute main line, and bishop to a6. And again, a very trendy move and very modern. Classical players used to play bishop to b7. Now bishop a6 is the main line. And usually white responds with b3, defending this attacked pawn. However, white played knight b to d2, covering the pawn with the knight, and black retreated the bishop to b7, because the bishop on a6 is not doing much, it's far better on b7, so retreating it to b7 is worth the tempo spent. Bishop to g2, bishop e7, white castles, black castles, and this looks very much like a normal position, but the knight on d2 here might not be the greatest asset of white. Queen c2. On the other hand, white just gained the tempo by this maneuver of black with bishop a6 and bishop to b7. And now black played c5, which is absolutely fine. e4 played. And now a very common line would be a move like d5. But why? A lot of players try to go into some hedgehog kind of position, and also in this position. Black players just try to take on d4, but this is already a very serious blunder. Can you see why? I will give you a couple of seconds, just try to find the best move. So the best move here is not to regain the pawn immediately, but first to play e5. Because if you took, then maybe something like d6 might be played, and then it looks like a hedgehog where this knight is placed a little bit strange and black is not unhappy. However, after e5, this knight has to move, and the issue is that it doesn't really have good squares. So it retreated to e8. And the thing is that this position has been reached by many strong players from the black side, for example Meskovs, who became a grandmaster later, reach this position. Not very pleasant for black. And white has already a very decent advantage. But the question is why? Well, let's take a look at this bishop. It's not protected. Well, it's not attacked, you might say. But on the other hand, you have to take into account this threat. The queen is hitting h7. And what if the knight moves to g5? Then you might say, okay, bishop takes. Well, that's right, but let's see what Fatcnik had in mind. Knight to g5, bishop takes g5. Now bishop takes b7, and this is the reason why I pointed out that the bishop on b7 is not protected. Now the rook is trapped, so the best way not to lose an entire rook is to play knight to c6. Also develops the knight. Bishop takes a8 and queen takes a8. And now it's the moment to stop here for a little moment and discuss this position. Of course, white just gained material. White gained a rook for a bishop and a pawn, and black has this extra pawn here. So, by definition, white is 1 point up or half a point, depending on how much you evaluate the rook. Yusupov, for example, says a rook is worth 4.5 points because bishop and 2 pawns are stronger than the rook in the endgame. But this is about the endgame. Usually a rook is worth 5 points according to chess literature and also stronger players. So that's the material, but we should also consider the closed character of the position. So white is not going to have a very easy time to convert the advantage, and we will see in a moment why. So white continued with knight to f3, a very logical move. The bishop drops back to e7, from where it is also controlling more squares, so the bishop doesn't feel bad on e7. And apart from that, keep in mind, white is up material. Black does not want to exchange so much, because taking here wouldn't be that good. Taking an undeveloped piece, helping white to develop, not good. And you want to keep material because black has big issues. And now white should play a move like queen to e4. And then might follow, because this is not only pinning the knight but also putting pressure on this pawn. So and then black should protect this pawn, and rook d1 played, and now it's very hard to find good moves for black. For example, f5, then simple queen e2, knight c7 and b3, and black is going to lose the pawn because bishop to b2 is coming. And the position of black is very bad. However, in the game, Fatcnik played much slower. He played a3 first, and this gave black the much needed time to play f6. And suddenly, black is exchanging the f-pawn for the e-pawn and has connected pawns in the center, which is very unpleasant for white. So bishop f4, f takes e5, knight takes e5, and now exchanging this knight, black doesn't mind because now suddenly he has the center. d6, knight takes c6, queen takes c6, rook a e1 played, and e5. And suddenly the pawns are rolling. Yeah, black is down material, but it looks like he's back in the game. Bishop d2, and now a very strong move by black. Take your time and try to find it. I will give you a couple of seconds. Now black just blocks the pawn of white with rook to f3 while also activating this rook. And this might be very unpleasant. White plays b4, and black just develops the pieces, knight to f6. And now white plays c5. And this is basically sacrificing a pawn, because after b takes c5, b takes c5, there is knight to d7, and due to this pin, the pawn is endangered. So it's attacked let's count, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and it's defended once. So the maths is not working for white in this position. So let's say queen a2 check to get rid of this pin, then d5, and the pawn is still attacked 3 times, defended 0 times now. A very bad position. Then might follow king to g2, and the rook just drops back to f7. Queen b2, bishop takes c5, and now it is actually black who is fighting for a win. And this is all very forced. So if black had entered this b takes c5 line, white would be in a very dangerous situation and might have lost the game. However, black, thinking that he's down material and considering other factors, decided to close the position. And this is just suicidal for black in the long run. And it's hard to see, but in a couple of moves, white is completely crushing black. Bishop g5, improving the bishop, h6, queen a2 check. And now the queen is ready to come into black's camp. Very unpleasant. King f8, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and queen to e6. And as you can see, the position of black is just getting out of control. The pawns are suddenly weak. White's pieces, or white's queen, is very active. And this pawn doesn't feel very safe. Also this pawn and this bishop. And also this pawn is weak. And black doesn't feel good here. He's completely lost. Queen to c7 played. And now white just continues activating his pieces. Rook to e4. h5, trying to contain the rook, because the rook was going to go to g4 and then g8 and checkmate. So after h4 they simple rook h4, which will cost white eventually just one extra tempo. Rook takes a3, rook takes h5, and again we have this mating threat. This time rook h8 leads to mate, because then king to g7 and queen to g8 checkmate. So king to g7 played, but still this doesn't help black much. Queen g4 check, king f7, rook h7 check, the king has to move, king e8, and after the move queen to e6, black decided to resign in view of moves like rook h8, checkmate actually, because this bishop is pinned. So as you can see, although the white player had a far advantage in regards of ELO rating, so this is an indicator that white is just a much stronger player by over 400 points. It turned out that even after committing a serious opening blunder, black was able to fight back, and wasn't it for this oversight with b5 in this position, black might have upset the opponent of Fatcnik, the favorite, in round 1 of the Senior World Chess Championship. So let me know what you think about this game. I think it's a very exciting one, and it's really fighting chess, because black was outplayed in the opening and then fought back and had chances to survive or even gain an advantage after the c5 move, but missed the chance. And of course, an experienced grandmaster like Fatcnik will not give his opponents more than one chance to get a good position. At least this is what I believe. As always, I hope you liked this video, enjoyed the game. If you did so, feel free to like this video and leave a subscription. See you.